Okay, hello everyone. I hope we are live. So if you can hear us and see us, feel free to put it in the chat so we know we're live. Okay. Yeah, we are live. Great. We're just gonna wait for a few minutes for people to join. And while we're waiting, if you probably can just write in chat where you're watching us today from, so we will understand geography and of course like time zones. We've just been talking about time zones and different time in California, South Dakota, Florida. Oh, nice. Jamaica. This is interesting. Very, very nice to see people from all over the world, as we can see. London. Hi, London. Alabama. DC. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. And I think we'll slowly start. And if more people join during our start, feel free still write where you're watching us from. So yeah. So my name is Olga, and I'm a business development manager at Mira and host of this webinar. Many of you know Mira from those who are watching, and that we are creating a lot of content about fertility and health in general. And one of them are our webinars that we do every month. And we cover different aspects of fertility and women's health on our webinars. This time we have decided to talk about feminism and fertility and what happens when they meet. Of course, it is still a lot to do for gender equality, and many people now face with very difficult choices when they're not sure if it's okay to delay pregnancy, to concentrate on career or education. Is it okay to want to have kids? Is it okay do not want to have kids? And if it's okay even to have both, like career and kids, and succeed in both of these directions. So there are like very various different choices, and even if it's about our own choice, often we can find lots of guilt and shame for it. Sometimes it comes from other people, sometimes we blame ourselves. So today we want to talk about it more and hopefully help someone do not feel bad about the choices, because you shouldn't. And we're going to look at what feminism has given to us and how it can help further. And to do it, we have our amazing hosts who will introduce themselves definitely better than I will do. So yeah, feel free to introduce yourself.
I can start. I am Dr. Tanya Wild. I am a naturopathic doctor, and I have been practicing for 16 years in this profession. And this is a very interesting topic for me because I myself went through subfertility, I like to call it, rather than infertility, because of polycystic ovary syndrome. And there was a lot of conflicting, mostly self-inflicted guilt and shame around even trying for child number 2, going through subfertility. And, I think a lot of it is, recognizing that if we let go of the self-inflicted shame and guilt and then surround ourselves by the right support, we can do so much. So I would say that I guess the biggest thing about me as an individual is going through my own fertility journey, and then helping other women with fertility is my big focus, I should say.
Thank you. And Hannah?
Yes, my name is Hannah Cox. Thanks for having me, Olga. I am a fertility awareness instructor, which means I teach women and couples and even teenage girls how to chart their menstrual cycle. So they are learning how to observe their body, and then at the end of each day, they're recording it in a chart so they can see their whole cycle charted out, and they can see when they ovulated, where they're fertile, they know when to expect their next period, and they're understanding when their hormones are shifting during their cycle. I didn't understand any of that when I was a girl. I didn't learn any of it. Probably like most women our age, we didn't learn much about our cycles or hormones when we were younger. So I didn't learn any of this till I was older. And so I learned to teach women this because I became so enthralled and passionate about this. It really affected how I saw myself as a woman, being able to understand my body. And I've worked with so many women now who are struggling with infertility. And once they learn about their cycle and hormones, they said, how come I didn't learn about this when I was a girl? How come we don't teach this to girls in high school? And I felt the same way. So now I'm really focusing on teaching younger girls this and helping mothers to be able to empower and teach their daughters about their bodies and cycles so they can grow up with that knowledge that so many of us didn't learn when we were younger.
Yeah, it's such an important topic to teach because so many women don't necessarily, or mothers don't want to necessarily teach their daughters, or they want to hear it from somebody else. And having polycystic ovary syndrome, it would have been so nice to understand why my cycles were all over the place and what the goopy discharge is, meaning ovulation and all the things you teach. So it's wonderful, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely important, and we probably will cover it a bit today as well. So before we start our conversation, just a few moments for the housekeeping, I would say. So it's just about Mira. As I said, many people know about it, and I'm gonna talk about Mira a little bit later. So that's what we are actually doing and how we can help with different fertility goals. So just, of course, very, very important, this disclaimer that anything we talk about today is, of course, it's for education and information only, and it's not a medical advice. So if you definitely have specific questions, so of course, we will recommend to you ask your doctor. This webinar is, as I said, for educational and informational purposes. So we also have our chat where you can ask the questions during the webinar. We have a moderator who will try to answer some of the questions, but we will pick up a few questions for our Q&A session in the end, after we have a little discussion. So if you have something to ask, definitely leave your question in the chat. And also in the end of our discussion, we will have a special discount promo for our Mira products. So would be nice, yeah, if you're looking for some discount codes, so stay till the end, but definitely stay with us because we want to talk about various different aspects of fertility. So, and I think we will also have a poll today, right? I think just gonna check with our moderator. We'll ask a few questions just to see who is watching us today. So I think we can do the poll. Is it? Just a moment. Yeah, so tell us about your fertility journey. So it will be interesting for us to hear. So many people actively trying to get pregnant, majority. Curious about fertility and fertility health. Great. It's nice to see. Okay. Thank you for your answers. So we have quite many people who are trying to get pregnant. Okay, and still waiting, still vote. Thank you so much for your answers. Okay, and yeah, just a few questions is, do you track your fertility hormone levels? Because of course Mira is a hormone tracker, so it's just interesting to see. We have many people who use Mira, and it's question a little bit about our webinar topic. Have you ever felt guilty or ashamed about your fertility journey? And I think, unfortunately, I would say many people chosen yes, and we will try to help with it. That you should not feel guilty or ashamed of pretty much anything, and especially fertility journey. Okay, then I think this is all our questions for the poll, and we can start our conversation. Thank you so much for answering those questions. And okay, so some of the questions that we would like to discuss, and many people now choose to delay having kids because they want to focus on education or career, and many feel guilty for waiting to have kids or not wanting any. Do you think one of the reasons for that guilt is related with to be fit in certain gender roles? So what do you think?
I do think that our culture, feminism is all about equality of the sexes. But in that process, the women's movement has kind of pushed women to try to aim to be more like men and told them fertility is your problem. You're getting this monthly cycle. And any issues you're having with it, if you're in PMS, that's an issue. And just having babies and being pregnant it disrupts your life in a good way, but by having all those things, we're not as productive. We can't maybe work the same hours and work as much as men. So I do feel like there's kind of a comparison, and that's been fed into a lot of the guilt that women have when they do want to pursue having a family and having natural cycles. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that feminism has pushed us into this feeling like we do have to do it all. And so then you get to this point where if you have pursued a career, you're trying to decide if it's too late to start trying, or perhaps you've been kind of seen in social media that women are much older having children. You have this expectation on yourself that, you could have kids in your 40s and it's no problem. And the fertility cliff isn't real, which is basically we're told that after a certain point that our egg quality fries out, and we start making babies at 35. But it's interesting because the statistics around this, which is kind of hopeful, is that between the ages of 35 and 39, couples will get pregnant. About 70% of couples will get pregnant by the end of the first year of trying. And then rolling into the second year, about 15% of that remaining 30% of couples will get pregnant. It's that remaining 15 of the total 100% that will then roll into year 3. And that's like a big amount of couples, 85% will get pregnant after the year 2, but we're kind of told that, or we feel this thought that we should just be able to get pregnant the first time we start trying, and then there's something wrong with us. If we're, let's say, 35 and we've been trying for 6 months, we're told to go to the fertility clinic because it's been 6 months, but sometimes it's just simply a matter of time. And there is this cool test that would empower women, I think. I don't know how ethical it is, but it's to start, testing this at a much younger age, a hormone called anti-Müllerian hormone, which I don't know if either of you guys have heard, but it basically tells you what your ovary reserve is. And so if you knew at maybe a younger age, if you're somebody with a low ovary reserve, that perhaps you could get counseled on maybe starting to try earlier and kind of knowing whether or not you were going to pursue career or both, or, and then getting that support as to like when to start trying, rather than thinking that, you have until your 40s to get pregnant. So the fertility cliff is kind of more real, but it's after 40. So so feminism definitely plays a role. I think we need to support women at a younger age, understanding their cycles and understanding their ovary reserve.
Thank you so much. in terms of when a woman decide to have kids later, do you think they need support if they decide to do it, and who and how should support them?
Definitely, I think women need support because there is all this fear probably that they're having. So the mental and emotional support is important. But I guess I'm biased. I know my work is in fertility awareness. And if women can have that knowledge of their cycle and being able to track their cycle day by day and knowing, okay, I'm starting to see mucus, so my estrogen's going up, I'm going to be ovulating soon. They know that they know when they're fertile. They're going to have better chances of getting pregnant if you know when you're fertile by tracking your cycle, by charting your cycle. And so the cycle charting has the benefit of not only being able to time when the best time to conceive is, knowing when you're fertile and knowing when you're ovulating, but it also can tell you so much about your health. And so women can learn this as they're learning to chart. But then there's also specially trained doctors that know how to read a woman's chart. And you can look at all kinds of biomarkers on the chart to look at the woman's health and look at her reproductive health and her hormone health. And I'm not sure a lot of women know that there are doctors trained out there that can learn to look at a woman's cycle charting and then be able to try to figure out what the underlying problem is based on her charting and treat it to help restore a woman's reproductive health so couples can get pregnant naturally and more easily and have a safer pregnancy because her body is more healthy. So that's an important form of support that I think women need to be more aware of. Just understanding her own body, and that gives her the knowledge to be able to get pregnant and have a healthier pregnancy.
I think that on a bigger level that we need to create our villages, because they don't really exist anymore. We're no longer in the village. So we need to have a, family support, but on top of family support, like reaching out to build your healthcare network. And this is like fertility aside, there's a lack of that village, and then going through a pandemic, it's even, it got even more depleted, our reserves. So I think it's really important in terms of support, like trying to get pregnant over 40, or in general, just existing on planet Earth over 40. At any age, we need extra support, and reaching out and building your network of healthcare practitioners and trying to keep as healthy as you can, because there's so much you can do to preserve your egg quality. They say, like some doctors will say, oh, there's nothing you can do for egg quality. But here's the thing, we can't really measure egg quality. There's no direct test. We know that after the age of 40, every pregnancy you get, there's I think a 50% of chance of miscarrying, which is a horrible statistic because it's hard for us, if we waited that long. But if we work on egg quality, we know that cigarette smoking and unhealthy habits can kind of reduce our years of a healthy ovulation. Then if those toxic things can impact our egg quality in a negative way, then certainly having a healthy lifestyle and supporting yourself by setting up your network to make sure that you have a balance between career, not just for making, building families, but also just living happily on planet Earth, like having a balance between exercise and nutrition and having a good mindset and getting enough sleep. So like the 4 pillars, really working on those things so we have a better time living, but also having, healthier egg quality. So the support is direct, reaching out to healthcare providers, but also directly building your network around you to make sure that you are really taking care of yourself so that you feel good, regardless of the journey that you choose.
Yeah, thank you so much. You just mentioned a little bit already, for my next question, because I wanted to ask, do you think it is possible for women to do everything at once, like have kids, education, career, life? And Tanya, you already gave some sort of tips how to do it. Is there anything else you would suggest? How can it be possible? because women, yes, often need to wear those different hats.
Absolutely. I think that if we had help at government level to really kind of push employers to give that those first 5 years, once you've had children, to kind of have better like ease of just sick time, maybe part-time working, daycare, local support, or perhaps you want to work from home now virtual and then have some kind of daycare set up in the home, and someone's, like financially just being really supported in that first 5 years was really, really helpful, would be helpful, because there's, once you have children, they get lots of viruses, and, being able to just to have that time to bounce back so that you could continue your career, for example. And then support even from your partner, whether or not you're the same sex couple, or if it's your spouse. And, let's be honest, like men think differently than women. So just kind of being on par with like how we can, or just even having communication and discussions on division of tasks and like household chores and raising babies before even having them, or even using the opportunity of your fertility journey to take that time so that you can, not burn out, because it could be a thing. It's easy to get burnt out if you don't have the balance and support for each member of the couple raising babies.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, you covered a lot of it. And I do think it's possible for women to have a career and have a family. It can be really hard if you don't approach it the right way. And I think women need to realize it's okay to want children. It's okay to want a family, and maybe step back from a career for a while, or just go to part-time if that is what is going to work. Because as you said, those first 5 years are so critical, but they can be really hard if you don't have the right support. So I've done that myself. I've kind of stepped back from the career I had before children, and been able to stay home, it's really a blessing. But so yeah, having that support, you really have to stop and think about what's important to you in the long run. Is it going to be really staying on top and getting to the head of your career? Is it having a family? And of course, all of it is, but just realizing it's okay that you don't maybe have a full-time big career, and communicating well with your spouse. So just to make it work. Yeah.
It's also okay to kind of find the balance and not kind of push for that early retirement. I think there's Canadian stats, because I'm over in Ontario here, that says that, people are retiring later. So if we kind of took a pause a little bit to, do part-time and work raising our kids. And I mean, it's easier if you're self-employed, because you can make your own schedule. But if you took a bit of a pause, it's okay, because we retire later anyway. And it's all about finding that balance. And should you decide to have children, I definitely think both is possible, but it really depends on you as an individual. A lot of, I see a lot of women kind of get burnt out, and their illnesses kind of pop up if they try to do it all. So it's recognizing that if you're going to do it all, to try to find your balance, and everyone's balance will be different.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for those tips. And we already talked a little bit about that fertility cliff, the aging, and it is one of the reasons for guilt is often aging, and we can see it all over fertility content. And do you think, can it be too late for TTC? And how to know when exactly is that late?
Yeah, it can be too late, because obviously there's menopause, but that can be hard to really know when that's going to come. And again, I think that comes to, if a couple wants to have children, the career can always come later. Realizing it's a tough decision, but there is a cliff, I guess, but it's different for every woman. I don't know any specific tests you can take to really be able to measure when that's going to be. But as Dr. Tanya said, it's probably later than a lot of people realize. And by having an overall healthy body, have healthy lifestyles, that's going to help you to be able to conceive later.
Yeah, I agree. I'll come back to that anti-Müllerian hormone test, because I really wish that at age 25, you had a meeting with the doctor and they said, this is your anti-Müllerian hormone level, which it actually declines every year by a certain number, like it's like 0.2 nanogram per mil. And then after age 40 goes down by 0.1. So just knowing that earlier could help us know when our own fertility cliff could happen, because although I gave those stats, which are very hopeful, that a lot of couples will get pregnant between the ages of 35 to 39, which is the kind of the old fertility cliff number, like, oh, everything's downhill after 35. A lot of women and couples will get pregnant at the end of 2 years maximum between the ages of 35 to 39. It's like 85%, I think, or 80%, right? Or 75. Yeah, basically like a huge chunk of people. So I think that the cliff is definitely later than we thought, but still happens. And it would be women's empowerment to know from an early age, because if you do have a lower AMH, there is a higher miscarriage rate at an earlier age. And then moving into the 40s, then the percentage is even higher. So to know that would be helpful, but it would have to be, you'd have to have a really important meeting with like a doctor who's skilled in educating. And I don't even know how ethical this is, because it's a newer test and they would have to do more research around it. And it's kind of like, the BRCA1, BRCA2 breast cancer gene. Like, do you want to know what your cliff is like? Like, when's your cliff going to be? And so there's like so much around that. I mean, it's good to a point, but then, there's also a certain point of just like, let nature happen and let your life evolve as it's meant to, so it's kind of like finding that balance again.
Yeah, I think it is also, with what you said, it's very personal. And it's quite difficult to say, that this is the only age. And I think with science and tech development, of course, there are more there are many devices that can actually help people to have kids when they're ready. And I believe more to come. But on the other hand, many people feel a bit ashamed about wanting to have kids, because of that belief that wanting to have kids does nothing but empower you. And of course, it's not true, but what do you think about it? It's a quite complicated question.
So for me, I mean, I had children at 35 and 39, and I had that, internal biological clock that I was going to do whatever it took. And I didn't know when I was, 30, actually, it was in my late 20s that I decided I was going to delay getting pregnant a little bit, because I was working with my brother, who he was, running the clinic. And he was having children. So I thought, okay, you have your kids, I'll kind of run the clinic while you're doing that and writing your books, and then I'll just delay it a little. And then it wasn't until later that I found out that I had PCOS and that I was going to go on an 8-year journey to complete my family and have them at 35 and 39. For me, I thought I had to be definitely before 40 to have my first child, and ideally second child at that time. But I also recognized that it was nice to have like a backup plan, because if the time before I knew what was wrong with me and my diagnosis, I just said, you know what, if I can't get pregnant with my own eggs, then I'll have, get embryo donors or egg donors. I definitely wanted to carry my baby, and having that backup plan was really helpful to kind of take the pressure and the stress off, and ended up conceiving naturally my second, trying to find the balance and taking a step back and over trying, but also in work in my career, like just taking a little bit of a back step just to kind of pause. And it's amazing after going through a journey of fertility treatments to conceive naturally. with a second child, recognizing that sometimes it is, like they say, oh, it's not stress, but maybe it is, so it's like finding the balance is really, really important.
Yeah, thank you. And Hannah, if you want to add anything.
Okay. I guess I never really felt guilty for having children. I believe that was your original answer. Because it's perfectly natural for women to want to be mothers and to have children, and no woman should ever feel that. We literally have parts of our body that make no sense outside of being mothers. That role that we play as women, one of our roles in society is to be mothers, and that's very important. So no woman should ever feel guilty for that. That's my stance on it. And I think the more we understand about our cycles, our hormones, and just how our body was created as a woman, the more we respect ourselves. And I've felt that myself, the more I've learned to understand my body. I've come to appreciate my cycle and my fertility. And I think the more women can really appreciate their fertility and their body, their female body, the more they're going to feel confident in whatever decision they make regarding having children.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think guilt always comes from a place of judgment, right? So it's like you're judging, right? Is that like, that's kind of the emotion that's associated with it. And we are really big judgers of selves. And that would be such an amazing emotion to eradicate. Because really, at the end of the day, we get to decide what our journey is. And we're worried about other people's judgment, but they're just more concerned with their own judgment. So if you kind of let go of judgment of others, judgment of self, then the guilt goes away, and we are going to be a bigger judger of ourselves than like family and society and such. So I think just recognizing you're the one who's empowered to take over your own journey, then you can kind of let go of that shame and that guilt.
And I think probably talking about like shame, guilt, and feminism, and I'm sure like feminism, of course, help many people do not feel ashamed. But how else do you think feminism can help people who decide to conceive and decide to have kids? If you have any thoughts on it.
Hannah, do you have any comments?
It's not an easy question.
I mean, you could freeze, like if you want to take it like to the nth degree, technically we could be in a society without men and freeze our eggs, and there's like millions of sperm per, semen and ejaculate, and we could live in a world, without men. But men are amazing, and we want to definitely make sure that we work on our connection if you're in a heterosexual couple. And I think it's really important to recognize that, you don't want to take it to the nth degree, because then, like we're saying, you can burn out. So it's important, like feminism is about equality. And actually there's this really cool feminist comic that was written by the French comic Emma. It was called The Mental Load, and it was about a partner seeing that the woman was, expecting, or it was being expected by their partner to kind of be the project manager of the home on top of raising children and working. And I think it's important that, again, bring it back to communicating with the spouse or our spouses, and dividing and roles, and empowering each other. It's really important. So feminism is about equality, not kind of giving it all to us. Like it's just like division of everything, right? So in terms of it empowering us, I guess just being able to we can delay things a little bit, and just, I think rather than feminism, it's like taking care of ourselves so that we can feel good, not just have kids later with I don't know if that answers the question. It's a loaded question.
Definitely. I think you pointed a quite important point, that sometimes when we talk about feminism, we just feel like, it means I need to do everything, which is, it's not.
No.
And it's about choice and to have a choice and don't feel guilty, don't be ashamed for it. It is, I think, or it feminism and fertility, probably.
Yes.
And I would like to add, we keep talking feminism is all about equality. And so, as you said, it doesn't mean women are better, but it's recognizing that women's role as a mother is equally as important as the man's job of supporting the family and their spouse. So just realizing that women, even if they choose to stay home and have children and not focus only on career, that role, that job is just as important. It's equal, because in the past that was kind of looked down on. The woman would just at home took care of the home and the children, and that was it. And that was kind of what the feminism movement was fighting against, saying no, women can go have a career and be educated, which absolutely, but also their role as mothers is just as important.
Even finding at the age of, let's say you're in your 20s, like finding a matched partner who, let's say, regardless of gender, like, do you want to stay at home? Do you both want to work? And like having that conversation ahead of time. There are plenty of men or partners who would be like, I want to go to work and do the career, you stay at home and have the children. Or perhaps they just want to travel and neither of them want to have kids. Like if there was some dating website that allowed you to match on values and what was important to you so that you knew ahead of time, how cool would that be? Because, it's just finding the right match and knowing, what you both want.
Yeah, definitely. And and I think one of probably like our last question before we go to Q&A, you already mentioned some of the steps that we can do, but what can we do for future generations to help them grow without that prejudice about fertility? Because I think if we start to do it now, definitely will bring good results and makes life much better and easier.
Yeah, well, this is kind of my passion and specialty in my work is empowering our daughters. So I think if our generation can be more informed and more knowledgeable, which I think we are, there's becoming a trend of women really wanting to understand their bodies more, which is great. And I have 3 daughters myself, and I want to teach them that if they want to make it in a man's world, they have to be a lady, which means embracing who they are as a woman, their unique femininity, be nurturing, kind, just that kind of feminine genius that's often referred to toward women. So we'll get much further by embracing our bodies than fighting it. That's what I want my daughters to know. And so women, if they can teach their daughters that their period is a sign of good health, it's nothing to dread or be embarrassed about. If we can be more open about that, that's going to help so much. Because right now, periods, cycles are kind of taboo. It can be really embarrassing. So, and especially for young girls, if no one ever talks about it. So first informing them, being open about periods and how good they are and essential for our health, and those hormones that are all involved have such a huge role in our overall health, just as we're maturing, as they're maturing into women, but also as mature women. And then understanding those hormones each month also. They affect our mood, energy, mental health, and that really just gives girls confidence in themselves, just understanding who they are as women.
I love that. Yes, I have a boy and a girl, and even with my son, I have explained to him, and I tell them every month, or if they ask, or I'd shut the bathroom door, but you know how young kids are, and they're like, "Mom," open the door, and you're like, "Yes, thank you. I'm just changing my Diva cup or my tampon." They're like, "Ew," and I'm like, "No, not you. Just let me have you. It allowed me to have you." It's like, girls menstruate. This is bleeding. Like just completely making them immune to it. I think it's important understanding the birds and the bees, but like just really getting it so that there's no taboo and there's no stigma. And then girls loving their bodies and teaching boys to, also love their bodies and love themselves, and just gender aside, but like no judgment and be kind. And then again, understanding your cycles, like just that one key, there are a few, I'm sure more than goopy discharge, but understanding when you're ovulating and that it's all important to have children one day. And just like education is empowerment, and learning beyond cycles, how to take care of yourself from an emotional, spiritual, physical perspective. So like teaching kids that they need to be active and not stuck on technology. And if you're leading as mama bears or papa bears doing that, they'll lead by example. So making sure there's that balance and healthy nutrition, and recognizing that can all play into the health of our sperm as men, and egg quality for women.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good point about not being feel guilty, ashamed of your own body, because it's all like natural processes. And definitely education, and like open education can help in it. And I think it's also great that we live now in time when we have science and tech, and if you depend, it doesn't matter what is your age, race, gender, or your fertility goals, you can have some solution, which is really great. And as I said before, I believe there are more and more coming, which will help in all those aspects. And I just want to explain how Mira helps, because we are, of course, one of the tech and science at the same time. And we already mentioned hormones and how it's important, and specifically for women's health, because of course they're changing, and the way they're changing can tell a lot about health. And if something goes wrong or something goes well, then there are certain levels. So with Mira, we track fertility hormones at the moment. So we track E3G, LH, and PDG, which we would say key fertility hormones. And when you track your hormones, we also provide the numerical values of those hormones. That also very important. And based on those test results, our app analyzing the test results and gives the predictions for when your cycle starts, when your fertile window, when your ovulation. And people using a Mira for various reasons and for different fertility goals. Of course, for TTC, it's probably one of the main use, but also if people just would like to understand their cycle, understand their health, they can track hormones and see how everything is working. So, and we have many people who are using Mira with PCOS, which is quite common condition, and irregular cycles, and specifically those hormones levels are very, very important for them. And on our app, you can see the graph, how your hormones are changing. Again, we mentioned a little bit about it, so it's also quite important to see how they change in dynamic. So this is just a little bit about Mira, and of course, as I said, we track the key fertility hormones, and there is a certain pattern how they change in prior your ovulation. And this is just a picture illustrating. This is what you can probably see when you track with Mira, but it doesn't mean that if it's not the same picture, something is wrong. It means there's just something different, and it's much more personal. So we, of course, clinically proven accuracy, and like a small lab at home. So quite easy to use, of course, and get a really accurate result about your fertility. And we have many people who reached and achieved their fertility goals. We are really happy for it, because if you even go on our website and read those successful stories, every story is very, very different. Someone got pregnant easy as someone went through a lot of fertility treatments and then they succeed and got pregnant naturally, which is of course amazing, and this is what we try to help. Yeah, we also, just like a small thing, we have our peer-to-peer group in Facebook. It's our Mirror Fertility Club, where people just asking each other. It's a really nice community because you can ask the questions, people will answer. And this is what we are talking about, empowerment as well, because there is no guilt or that ashamed feeling. It's all okay. All questions are okay. And your choice is also okay. It doesn't matter what is your fertility goal. So yeah, this is just a little bit about Mirror. And I think we can check what we have for our Q&A session. I know that our moderator saved some of the questions. I'm just going to read. So it's for, one of the questions is for Dr. Tanya. So does Dr. Tanya practice only in a particular state? Does she provide consultation, like I think virtual conversations? So if you can probably answer.
That's very sweet of you to ask. I'm in Ontario, Canada. So Toronto, I have a podcast called My Fertology, MyFertology, if you'd like to hear more, but it can't, because of regulations, treat patients outside of Canada, Ontario. But there are naturopathic doctors in all the states in the US. So maybe finding a connection there would be really helpful. I just want to comment that if I knew about Mirror, or if it existed back when I was trying to get pregnant, I for sure would have used it. I remember discovering the Clear Blue double hormone test that was really helpful, but this is awesome because you can set it up to your technology, it looks like, and it shows you your progesterone. Like, how cool is that? I love this new technology, and this is not a plug because you, like, I have no, associations with Mirror. I just got asked to do this talk, but I think it's a wonderful way to discover your hormones and your regularity, and then even just the concept that if you're not trying to get pregnant, like maybe you're using it for contraception, or just getting in touch with your body and understanding it. So not just for pregnancy, getting pregnant. It's like such an awesome tool. So kudos for creating it.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. I personally also love that graph. It's one of the things, because you can see dynamic. It's amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another question we have here. What could you say about LGBT fertility journeys? I see how much science does nowadays for us, same-sex couples, to help us becoming parents, but it is still so complicated. Lots of people make us feel ashamed for the decision to have kids. So maybe you can comment on it.
I wrote a chapter for a book called Embrace Your Fertility, Empowering You with the Tools to Succeed, by an author, Dr. Bellerak, a fertility specialist in Ontario. And there was a chapter in there written by some best friends of mine on their journey getting a sperm donor, and so a same-sex female couple. And I can see that, I could see how it would be challenging with judgment, although I have lots of friends and same-sex couple of friends, and it's sad that there is still this like level of judgment. I hear it from them, and it's unfortunate, because really, you should just be able to create your own world the way you want your world to be. And if you're attracted to the same gender, then that's awesome. And there's so many fertility clinics that are supportive of that. I think you have to kind of do a little bit of tunnel vision, and then kind of create, see you and your partner, regardless of gender, as like the center of an onion. And then like you just layer on your village and like tunnel vision in, and just like do your very best to like not allow other forces enter. And you can get sperm donors, you can get embryo donor. If for some reason one of the couple had issues with egg quality. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, possible for both women and men. So like, I think it's fantastic that it's a great question, and totally something that's made possible because of technology. And I had my first child by IVF, and so did my best friend. They just happen to have a sperm donor, and it was kind of cool because she had my best friend carried the baby of her partner's egg and a donor sperm. So they had each a part in that, and then it was the same ancestry of my friend who was carrying baby. It was her ancestry for the sperm donor. So, you just make your own families, and you make your life as it's meant to happen for you, and just let go of other people's judgment as much as you can.
Yeah, Hannah, if you would like to add anything. Thank you, Tanya.
Oh, well, Tanya, you said a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
It's
time might be an issue.
No,
I like
it's absolutely fine. I think it's
again, no matter your situation, it's totally natural to want to have children. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
Yeah, thank you. We have just like a few questions about that MAH test, and I think maybe many people haven't heard of it. And, so what kind of doctor should I look for to test for my MAH level?
So the AMH is anti-Müllerian hormone. And I can give you a link, Olga, after to understand the ranges and the study which showed the decline. And it's something you can ask your family doctor. In Ontario, you have to pay for the test, and you don't have to see a fertility specialist for it. And you could, you would probably need a family doctor to give you a requisition for it. You'd have to explain it to the doctor. And the cool thing about it, it also helps to diagnose, or not diagnose, but it gives you more insight as to the degree of your polycystic ovary syndrome. Because let's say you had 10 nanogram per mil, result as a woman. That means that it's probably, with irregular cycles and excess androgens, it's probably like polycystic ovary syndrome is more concrete and defined. Like it's like definitive that you probably have it. It's the range is 6 to 10 for women who may have PCOS if they are having irregular cycles and excess androgens. It's like a kind of a borderline case. And then a normal AMH would be anything from 1 to 5, depending on how old you are, because the age varies. The level will vary depending on your age. So, but a healthy AMH, in your 30s would be anything from like 2 to 5, but it really depends on your scenario and your everything else, your health and such. So, but it does give you some insight, as I said, the decline, and women who have premature ovary failure will have a much lower number, like under 1 in their 30s often, and so that increases the risk for miscarriage. But again, if you're taking really good care of yourself, and you're not smoking, and you're eating healthy, and you're taking care of your sleep and doing all these things, and even there are supplements that you can take and nutrition plans you can follow to really improve your egg quality. If you're in your 30s, even with a low AMH, can have healthy family and make healthy children.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We have one more question, but I'm not sure if you can cover it. So we have do you think Mira would be effective for premenopausal women with irregular periods? And I think it's not only probably about Mira, but also generally about if tracking your hormones will be effective for premenopausal women with irregular periods. If you can maybe answer this question.
That can be tricky because it's not going to be as regular from cycle to cycle. That's where I think something like the cycle charting that I teach could be helpful to go along with Mira. I think those two technologies could really work together, because the cycle charting that I teach is really based on your hormone levels, and you're charting your cycle, your period, but then also your mucus, which comes as your estrogen rises. And then after that, your mucus is gone, your progesterone rises. So seeing those together would be really helpful to know where your hormones are. And so even if you have irregular cycles, you can still track it all and chart it. And it still is going to tell you when your hormones are changing. It may not be as regular from cycle to cycle, but you're still going to know kind of what's happening with your hormones and get a really good idea of your hormone health. And then if you would need to see a trained doctor or someone, naturopathic doctor, they could help you with the hormone stuff.
I think it would be helpful because, and yes, I agree, cycle charting is really helpful through all the stages. Where it might show up really helpful is when the egg white discharge we tend to dry up around the perimenopause for some women. So it's hard, like I'll ask patients, do you see the, goopy, sneezy type discharge when you're mid-cycle, which no longer exists, like they're not mid-cycle anymore, because it's maybe a 21-day cycle. So it kind of helps us understand where we are. And if you the progesterone rise, you can see if it's still happening. And it's really helpful because women going through perimenopause often get that premenstrual like mood drop, that shift in energy, and even some women have the PMDD, so the premenstrual dysphoric disorder, where they're like, really depressive around that time. So if you understood why, because some women are just like, I don't know why I feel like this, but if they had the Mira fertility monitor, they could at least understand, oh, it's the hormones that's playing the role. Because when you're just tracking your day one, you don't know what's going on. But if you see and maybe meet with somebody who understands the cycles to explain it to you, like a Hannah or a me, like a naturopath, somebody who can kind of guide you further so that you can get the support to deal with those symptoms. So yeah, it would be definitely a helpful tool.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answers and advice and tips. I think we're gonna slowly finish our webinar today. So yeah, I didn't change. So yeah, I talked in the beginning that we're gonna have a discount code for on our Mira Fertility Starter Kit. So it's 10% off with the code EMPOWER, and we're gonna anyway send the email after our webinar. So if you don't remember the code, it will be there. And we also will upload our webinar on our YouTube channel. So if it's something that you would like to watch again, if you didn't catch certain question, it will be available online very, very soon. So you also can download our presentation. And I think we're just wrapping up with the poll again. Few questions to ask our audience, and I really hope you got the information you really need. So we just ask, how would you rate the webinar? Because it's quite unusual topic for us. I mean, not unusual, but slightly different. Okay. And we do webinars every month. As I said before, we're covering different topics. So next month is a different topic. So you can join as well. Okay. So nice to see that majority of people like the webinar and would definitely watch another one from us. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? I don't think so. But yeah, I would like to say thank you to our presenters today for joining us today and sharing your experience. And I hope we could answer and cover many different questions. And I hope that everyone feel a bit more empowered about their choices and not worry about what other people say, because it's all about your life and your choice. So yeah, thank you so much, Hannah and Tanya. And thank you so much for everyone join us today. And also, if just in case you still have some questions, you can always write us at support@miracare.com. So, and we will definitely answer. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And see you soon.
Thank you, Olga.
Okay.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Bye. Bye.